What's up, half centenarian? So I'm here in New York City. I've been approached by a modeling agency, and so they're sending me over to see Shailah Edmonds. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show her my best walk. Yes. No. That's okay. What's up, half centenarians? We are in New York City, and we could not come to New York if we did not get a couture model. So we are really excited to have a couture model here. You probably hear some of the background noise. It's only fair that you know, when we are talking about modeling, we're talking about like back in the day when people really wore like classic outfits and things of that nature. So we are gonna get all of that information from Shailah, and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself before I steal all of your thunder, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Great. Hello, I'm Shailah Edmonds. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, which is a big shock, I'm sure. And I've been a couture model. I lived in Paris for 2 years and worked for every major designer in the world, all over the world. Yes.
Wow. So now you're back when you were in Paris to present day. Kind of give us an idea of, well, let me ask you this. How did you even get started?
Yes,
in
you're
modeling?
in for a story. From Portland, I always wanted to be an actress or a singer or something, and there was just no outlet, so I rebelled and did all the wrong things, hung with the wrong people, went to the wrong places, and became a teenage parent and just was thrown out of the house. I had a tumultuous childhood. But I went back to school, got myself together, and met this basketball player from DC who married me and took me back to his hometown. So I was just happily married and had another child, and was walking down the street one day and a lady scouted me and said, "You should be a model." And from Portland, I never knew what a model was, didn't even know anything about it. And she says, "I'll teach you everything you need to know to model." So she took me to her apartment, taught me how to walk. Those are the days you put a book on your head, and I was so clumsy. And she says, "I run a model competition in New York, and I'm going to send you to New York for a model competition." Wow. So I went to the competition, and I won the competition. I won Couture Model of the Year. Wow. And afterwards, an agent approached me and said, "If you ever move to New York, I'll help you out and make you, get you where you need to go." And I was just so excited. I went back to DC, and I'm like, "Husband, hold the kids. I got, this is happening." So I moved everything lock, stock, and barrel to New York and went to the agent. And she looked at me when I got to her office as if she had never seen me in her life and said, "I don't remember telling you that, and right now there's nothing I can do for you because I have my quota of black models." So there I was, stuck in New York with everything, moved and I went to an agency. I researched agents all over New York and couldn't find anything, so I ended up spraying perfume in Bloomingdale's more than I cared to. So I kept pursuing agents in New York and could never find an agent, and at the same time I was taking pictures with this photographer, and he kept saying, along with other people and agents that turned me down, that you should go to Europe, that's where all the black models are working. And I said, "How can I go to Europe?" And the photographer, one day I went to pick up my photos from him, and he handed me an envelope, and inside that envelope was a one-way ticket to Germany. And he says, "Just take this and go." And he never knew I had children and everything. And at the same time, I was so down on my luck, I had gone to the city welfare to help with my children. I was just, suffering with these kids. And so I get home, I have this ticket to Germany in one hand, and I open the mailbox, and there's a check for $2,000 in the mailbox. So I said, "What do I do?" So I tried to call parents and friends and everything to help me out with the kids, and while I go to see what happens in Europe. And nobody would help. So I had to call the husband back and said, "Please, crying, take the children back for a little bit." And but before I went off to Germany, I took the kids, I spent the welfare check and took a trip to the Bahamas and took them to the Bahamas. So, the lady who scouted me told me to never tell anyone in the industry how old I was or that I had children. And so I took 10 years off of my age without any question, and back then they didn't have the internet. So I was actually about 27, 28 when I started. And
they're thinking you're 17 or 18?
18, yes, yeah.
Okay.
And no one questioned it. So I carried that all throughout Europe. No one questioned it, but I kind of kept to myself and never really made, close friends with any models because, before you know it, things start getting out. So, but anyway, all the models started coming to Europe. I mean, from everywhere, all over the United States, Africa, the islands, and there was such an influx of black models. It was just mind-boggling. It was just great. So
was that good for black models at that time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because those
okay.
models that were there could have probably never worked anywhere in their
Okay.
life. So
Got it.
that gave them a great opportunity, and it was great. It was war, honey. We were on that runway flipping fabrics and looking at each other and
Yeah.
you know competing for the biggest applause. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
really rolling our eyes at each other like.
Sounds like today.
Yes, yes. But it was all good.
Yeah.
Really no hard feelings or
Gotcha.
animosity. But it was just really a great time. And that's when my career started flying. I
Okay.
started going to Portugal, Africa, Tokyo, Finland,
Yeah.
Spain. I mean, and then I elevated myself to the couture level of modeling, which is rare for a black model to get to that level. You're doing.
So what does that mean exactly? Can you tell us?
Yes, couture is the highest level of modeling where garments are made pretty much by hand and just made to fit your body
Okay.
exactly. You're measured like 10 zillion times and everything fits like a glove to your
Okay,
body.
got
And
it.
nothing is less than like $10,000 or $20,000 maybe for a blouse even.
Okay.
I mean, it's just really, so you're
Okay, got it.
showing clothes, you're doing shows for royalty, or people with really lots of money. so it was rare for a black model to get to that level, and I was so proud to get to that level. Yes,
So
yes.
you are now thinking, when you come back to New York, you're working and everything is kind of flowing.
Yes.
So when you think about what you went through and the ageism,
Yes.
colorism that you had to go through,
Yes.
how is that? How are you dealing with that today? Are you still modeling now, or what are you doing?
Actually, I didn't model too much after a while because the modeling is a trend.
Okay.
There was the '80s models. I was in the '80s group,
Gotcha.
and when I then the '90s models came in. The Naomi, the Claudia Schiffer, the
Yeah.
Linda Evangelista, and they were
Yeah.
the supermodel things.
Yeah.
So that phased out the '80s
Okay,
models. So you
okay.
just did-
That
yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
Yeah. So that's when I started teaching models. I produced a runway video, an instructional video, and traveled all over the United States training models how to walk the runway.
Wow.
And it was
So you put
very
that together
successful.
yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was very successful, and I did 2 of them, and I went to model conventions and spoke and trained models. And then I started doing commercial print modeling, which is more kind of selling dishwashing liquid
Yeah.
and things like that.
Okay.
And some showroom modeling where you just work in the showroom for the designer. And then I decided, this is, it's pretty, the modeling is pretty much done because that's kind of your stepping stone out of
out
the
of it.
runway.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Makes
go,
sense.
Yes, to commercial print,
Okay.
and then
So Shailah has this wonderful story. This is just a snippet of her life.
Yeah.
But she has a book called Wild Child to Couture Style,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So if you just want to think about, we've gone through just how you got started, what you had to do, come back to New York, bleh, they don't want you. And then you finally got your foot in the door. But that's the foot in the door with the stories to go with it in
Yes.
this book. So
Yes.
how did you come up with thinking, okay, I'm gonna write my memoir? How'd you do
Well,
that?
after everything had started calming down and I'd done, my stint with the instructional video, I kept a diary the whole time I was traveling. For the
Okay, that's
first
good.
time I got on the plane, keep your diary, keep a journal, keep a journal, because I was going back through all my journals from every year, and I'm like, God, I did that. I did that. I
Right.
couldn't believe the things
Yeah.
that I did. I said, this needs to be in a book. And I had written the book when I first started modeling because I love to write. I'm a writer at heart. And I was just writing snippets. And I said, I could put this together for a book. And you'll read in the beginning, it was just kismet, another fateful event. I went to an Ashford and Simpson concert. And my date stood me up. And I said, I'm just going by myself, and I was dressed to the nines. And the lady said, well, we're all full. And she said, I have a place for you to sit in the balcony. I said, I don't dress like this to sit in the balcony. I'm sorry. And her face went like this. And she says, well, let me find you a seat.
Yeah.
Because I was not having it, because I was standing right behind Spike Lee and Cicely Tyson. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm sitting with them.
Right.
So she found me a seat on the main floor, and she set me with these 2 guys. And he just was in awe about, how I looked and where I was from and who are you. We started talking, and he says he heard I told him a story, snippets of my story, and he says, you need to have a book. He says, I'm a writer.
Wow.
He says, I'm going to co-write your book, and that's Chester Fultz. He's my co-writer on there.
All right, so where can we find this riveting novel?
This book is on Amazon.
Okay.
It's a great memoir, I tell you. For all aspiring models, it's kind of don't do what I did, but learn from my mistakes.
Right.
Because it's fun. And I just want to add this one little point, another fateful event. When I wrote the one-woman show based on the book, I performed it, and in the audience there was an editor from the New York Times.
Wow.
And he was so thrilled and intrigued by the story that he did a full-page article in the New York Times.
Wow.
And that's when it really blew up. So all you models out there, don't think about the big time and going for the money. Do free shows. Get yourself out there and be seen, because you never know who's watching you. You never know who's in the audience.
That's such a good
and
point.
yes, so after that New York Times article, the book blew up and sold internationally and did very, very well.
Wow. With that in mind, you guys need to go check out the book, because this is something that can lay a foundation for you if you aspire to be a model. There's no reason why you have to go out and hit your head on a brick wall. You
Yes.
can learn from
Exactly.
the best.
exactly.
There's a CD that's out there.
Yes.
So you've talked about your highs, your lows, your peaks, your valleys, the ebb and flow of, being a model and all of those
Yes.
kinds of things.
Yes.
What would you leave, even when they're going to get in touch with you on your website and all of that? But as we're here closing, give us a statement or a mantra that you would like to share.
Well, I'm a believer in keeping it going. Keep the flow going. Don't be home and depressed. And when I say live, I don't mean life and death live, but live.
Right.
Do what you need to do. And my mantra is live as long as you want to, and want to as long as you live.
Oh, I like that. Say that one more time.
Live as long as you want to, and want to as long as you live.
You go, girl. That is awesome. So with that is an excellent place to close out. Thank you so much, you guys. Don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe. We have all of the information for Miss Shailah Edmonds on the screen. Find her. If you want to do something and you want to live,
Yes.
she'll help you out. You have a great day. We look forward to seeing you guys. Be safe and be careful.
Thank you.